Ready.
Awesome. The record button is hit. The record button is hit, I should say. And super excited to have everyone here. Friends, thanks for being here. I have an incredibly amazing guest today. This is Dr. Erika Hamden. And though we are going to keep this super casual, friends, so if you have questions or want to pry a little bit more with Dr. Erika Hamden, just so you know, I've had a couple times, we've had some interactions before. Remember, you were in the 3 minute hot seat, Doc?
Yes, that was so fun.
It was fun, and when we got off, I remember saying like, "Oh wow, she was really good at that rapid fire talk." So I think I know that Erica's pretty open book too, and pretty casual and laid back. So if you guys do have any questions, you're more than welcome to jump in. Me and Doc agreed that we want this to be an interactive event where you guys are more than welcome to throw questions to the group and that for some discussion. And as always, Dr. Erica, you have the opportunity to not have to answer if it's one you don't want to answer as well. But friends, if you don't know, this is Dr. Erika Hampton. She's an astrophysicist. She has an incredible story. In fact, years ago, Erica, I don't know if you remember this, but I had an English language learner physical science class, and we watched your TED talk about failure and pushing through. And then they said, "Do you think she would talk to us?" And
And
that
then
was
I
like the
did, right?
yeah. And it was like the first time I ever thought of. I honestly have no idea if she would talk to us. So I emailed you, and you're like, "Oh yeah, sure, let's FaceTime." Or like it was before like Zoom was very normal,
Yeah.
and you were like on an iPad screen, and we put you on. But they were like so honored, and that inspired so many of my English language learner students to like look further into science, and the fact that you took the time for us. So that was like my first interaction with you. So gracious. But you have so many cool things that you've done in your life and that you're planning to do. If you guys don't know the fun stuff, besides like ridiculously cool telescopes, you're also like heading the actual Space Institute at University of Arizona. Are you classically trained from culinary school, right? Like
Yeah.
culinary, which is crazy, right? Harvard grad, not to brag, right? You're a great pizza maker. I remember your favorite summertime meal is some kind of ricotta cheese and
Oh,
toasted
on toast. Yes, with
peaches.
with peaches.
I remember that still from our 3 minute Q&A years ago, and so many great things going on. So, Erica, you also cited the new author of Weird Universe, which I'm excited. I'm halfway through, and for any of you science peeps out there, Erica, can I just say you do a great job of keeping it able for us to understand it. You didn't get so, for lack of better terms, out in the clouds that I was like, I can't even follow. You even tiptoe with quantum and don't go so far that like I totally lose it. So I appreciate
Good.
that. And just a little highlight, my favorite part so far is the destruction of Earth. That always gets me terribly excited. Is that morbid? Like how the sun eventually will not be here one day, or it will, but we won't be here because of that. And
I
I'm
think it
morbidly
takes all the pressure off.
so if we don't do it, the sun's gonna take care of it, right? Rockin'. But thank you again. I know that was a discombobulated intro, but we're glad to have you here. And if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about like where your journey to getting here today. I know there's a lot of pieces, but maybe just a little bit about coming from where you're coming from and that so that we can get a little bit of that human side.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been into space. My like big objective is to go to space, and like I didn't actually post about this very much, but I've applied 4 times to be an astronaut, and this most recent time, like it was due in last April. I'm like, oh my God, that was so long ago. Yeah, it was due like last spring, and then my references were checked for the first time ever, which means I made it to the top like 450 people, 400 people. But then I didn't get an interview in Houston, which was like like extremely disappointing. But I've been into space since I was a little kid, and like I was good at math and science, and I come from a family. I have a lot of sisters, and I think we were talking before about teachers that like went through public school in New Jersey, and my older sisters, like we all have the same last name, and so the teachers all knew the family. And I don't know if you've had this where like you're like, oh, I had your older sibling, and you know that the younger sibling will be the same as the older sibling. So my teachers were always like, oh, you're a Hamden, like you'll be fine. So I never had a teacher that was like, oh, I don't think you'll be smart enough or you'll be like good at this, because my sisters were also very smart.
Mhm.
Um, so I just kind of like kept going, and like I've had some detours, and I went to MIT because MIT is the best university for like non-military university for astronauts. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna be an astronaut, so I gotta go to MIT. But then I hated MIT and I left and I went to Harvard. And then at Harvard, I got more into the academic side, like of the science versus the engineering, and then, but I wanted to take a break, so I went to cooking school, and then I worked as a chef for a year, and then I ended up going to grad school. But it's interesting that I still am doing stuff which is kind of like more like engineering than just like straight astronomy, because like building the telescopes, you're doing a lot of design stuff and like requirements, and it is at the interface of engineering and astronomy. So it's fun. And sometimes I still think like, oh, maybe I should have been an engineer in the end, but it's still a pretty good job. And I do the social media stuff because I just feel like first that space is so cool and I want to share it with people. And the more that I do it, the more I feel like I hear from people that they love learning about it and they don't have the opportunity or the access or the like they didn't take classes in it, or they felt like they couldn't learn it. And I believe that any person can learn anything about anything. They just have to be taught in the right way, and they have to have the like time to think about it and to like dig into it. And so I try to like kind of embody that in the social media stuff that I do. And in the book, that like anybody can read it and understand, it tries to meet people where they are.
That's a good point. Your social media in the last couple of years really has blown up, and I love it because it's like little snack-sized bites of thoughts about outer space. And you're
Yeah.
right, I don't set aside a lot of time to study it on my own, but I really enjoy it. So when every time yours comes up, I always stop, and it really is. It's like this little burst of knowledge, and me with my background in chem and physics with teaching, it like always intertwines some way with like a lesson I've taught in class, or it's like, yes, it's just more ammo for me to understand and put it all together. So
Yeah.
yeah, a shameless plug for sure. If you're not following Erika, like on Instagram, her reels are awesome and to the point and very digestible and understandable too. You're very nice. You don't go too far out there where it's like, man, I don't know what you're talking about. So
That's
appreciate.
on purpose.
Yes, I'm sure that is very intentional. And you brought up culinary, and actually, Thomas, who's on right now, threw in a couple questions, but I wanted to ask one of the questions he brought up. And I noticed too, you had a shipment of flour recently
Oh
to make some
yeah.
pizzas because you make pizza on Sundays. The question is, with the flour and that, what do you think is the best type of pizza to make? Thin crust, deep dish, cornmeal. What are you thinking?
So I make it's not exactly a deep dish pizza, but it's a like pan pizza in a cast iron pan.
Mm.
And for a while I was into making grilled pizzas, like very like which were very thin, but then I felt like it almost was like a cracker, like it became too, if you like overcook it, it's like too hard. But I found this recipe for the pan pizza dough where you make it in the morning and then it just sits all day, and then you like smush it into the pan and then put all the stuff on it and then put it in your oven, and that's it. And so I don't even have to like be outside, and it's so easy. And like I've been having people over on Sunday, so I'll like make a big pizza and have people over, and everyone's always like, "Oh, this is so good. Like, is it hard?" And I'm like, no, it's so easy. I like didn't even change the recipe. I like literally follow exactly what the recipe says, and it comes out every time. The only problem is that I put my oven on it, like you basically turn your oven to as hot as it will go and then let it heat up for like an hour. And the first couple of weeks that I did it, like my oven was not clean, and so I had to also run the like vent above the oven because it was smoking so much. But then actually now my oven like gets cleaned every week because I basically like blast it for an hour before I put the pizza in.
And your Arizona heat, I'm sure your house feels great when you're throwing a.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome.
Wait,
All right.
what
Well,
it is? It is 106 right now.
holy smokes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are happy here. We're thunderstorming in Illinois outside of Chicago, and it's like, I think like 72 right now Fahrenheit. So we're
Pretty
feeling
nice.
good here.
That's really nice.
A little soggy. But all right. Well, thank you for entertaining that. I too find it so funny. We're here to talk about space, but I'm also love to
Talk
cook. So
about pizza.
I love your quirky culinary side. That's legit. I mean, you went to school, but okay. So back to a little bit more of the space. Your book, Weird Universe. First of all, a couple quick questions like why did you end up deciding to write it? And then if you we could just take a peek behind the scenes, what was it like for you writing it? Was it a labor of love? Did you enjoy it? Was it just like I think it's time? Just curious on the backstory so that if anyone ends up reading it, we could kind of know like the feelings behind it.
So it was I was contacted by a publisher. So it's with this publisher Mango Publishing. They have like a little mango
Mhm.
on the spine. And they basically said, "Oh, we really like your Instagram. Have you ever thought about writing a book?" And um I was like, "No, not really." And they said, "Oh, we think people would really like it." And they look for authors that like have more come from like a larger set of backgrounds than just like the kind of usual suspects who are writing things
Mhm.
like a lot of the space books are written by kind of the same type of person. And so they were like, "Oh, you're like a woman talking about space and we think that your voice would translate really well to a book." And so I was like, "Okay, well, let's try it." And so they asked, I first started talking to them over a year ago and they were like, "Okay, can you write it by like they gave me like a deadline." And I was like, "Sure, like let's see what happens." Of course I did not meet that deadline, like all writers everywhere. And I also didn't tell anybody that I was doing it because I wasn't sure if I was actually going to ever write anything. So I was like, "Okay, I won't say anything and then I'll just see what happens." And then I wrote it mostly over last summer and I went sometimes I give talks on cruise ships and I get to bring someone with me. So last summer I was on a cruise ship for 4 weeks in the Mediterranean with my mom as my companion. And we would wake up, have breakfast. I would work on the book and she would like read the newspaper and then we'd like do the tour for the day and then we'd have lunch, go to the pool, go to the gym. I'd give a talk about astronomy and then we'd have dinner and then go to sleep and then the next day like do the same thing because like the days on the cruise ship were all the same. So I wrote probably half of it on a cruise ship. And then I came home and like I think I finished it in October of last year. And then when it was done, I was like, "Oh, cool, I wrote a book." And then I had all this anxiety about it. Like, is it too short? Is it too like, is it boring? Is it bad? What if it's wrong? I like had all this stuff that like maybe I like messed stuff up, although didn't, I like tried to look up as much as I could, but and then so then I waited for like they sent me comments and we had a couple of rounds of edits. And then we did like copy editing or like for typos where I discovered that um, I you're supposed to capitalize Earth and Moon when you are referring to the Earth and the Moon. And so I went through and there's like hundreds, it felt like hundreds of instances of like Earth, Moon, and Sun that needed to be capitalized. And actually, like a couple of people have messaged me with like, "Oh, there's a typo, like this, there should be a negative sign here." They didn't catch everything, but so only after that was done and then they said, "Okay, now we're sending it to the printers." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I have to tell people that this is happening."
All right.
And
So it's like super secretive.
that was like March or April. It was not that long ago.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, but it was really fun to work on. And it was like I got the opportunity to dig into some really wacky things that I had known about, but maybe didn't really like have a deep understanding of. And so that was super it was really interesting for me to write it and I had to also try to avoid getting like sucked into a rabbit hole of like looking up all these old papers to like so like when I was figuring out there's a chapter about nuclear spaghetti which is like a certain state of matter that appears in neutron stars and I was like, okay, I have to find out who came up with this silly name. And it's the first instance was in like 1983 in a paper, and they refer to nuclear spaghetti, nuclear lasagna, as and these like pasta shapes. And at some point I had to be like, okay, now I need to stop because like I'm not going to write all this detail, but it's interesting for me to know. So it was really fun and I liked doing it, and I hope that people like it and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I can speak. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I'm halfway through, but I think I'm right at the nuclear spaghetti part. That's funny you brought that up, and the Death
Yeah.
Star. So cool. What was your favorite topic to write about? Was it something you were learning that was you weren't as familiar with, or was it something that you just like totally geek out on?
So, I mean, I liked so many things in it. I actually really liked writing about space time and like the distances in space because I think that how like I think people don't get really how large space is. And I have a video coming out on social media soon that's about like alien conspiracies and like the US government actually there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that like the US government was deliberately planting alien conspiracies as a way to cover up just their general technology development research. So like the conspiracy was the conspiracy, which is so hilarious to me. But I think people like believe that because they don't realize how far away stuff is in space. And so just trying to think like come up with the numbers of like if you were traveling like this is how long it takes you to get somewhere and that the times are just like totally outrageous and really hard for your brain to like handle.
Hmm.
um so I liked that, and then I also liked how there's certain things that like reoccur throughout the book, like every time we've looked at something in space that we don't really know what it is, people are like, maybe this is a star. So like asteroid is comes from like is named for the term like star like, but it's not a star, but it's kind of like a star. And then so there are these teeny tiny little bits of rubble, and then literally the brightest objects in the universe, these like galaxies that have super active centers that are putting out just like a ton of light, and they're so far away. Those are called quasars, which is short for quasi-stellar object, because once again people are like, is this a star? I'm like, no, none of them are stars. And I just think it's so funny that we spend so much time being like, maybe this thing is exactly like something we already know. And then, of course, it's not, it's totally different. And so, that for me, like finding those little tidbits is very amusing.
Hmm. I love that you said that. I think you've mentioned this maybe in one of your videos too, but like in science, a lot of times we don't know the answer, and that often excites us.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that served like for teachers who teach science and sometimes students are like, I don't know if I'm ever going to use this, but the approach of not understanding something and getting excited that you would not understand it, do you feel that serves you well in other areas, not just like in your research or trying to make a telescope better?
So I think that if you watch Ted Lasso, where he's like, oh my God, there's a bird of prey that just landed on my patio furniture. Oh my God, this is like so exciting.
Oh, is it a what kind of
I
bird?
don't, so there's, wow, it's like looking in here. I'm sorry, you guys. This is,
It's all right.
I love birds of prey. This is like maybe the best moment of my life.
Yep.
Um,
We'll go check it out if you need. I can stall.
hold on, I got to take a picture of it.
All good.
In my backyard, there are American, or no, they're Cooper's hawks that have a nest in a tree like a couple doors down. But I don't think this is a Cooper's hawk, but it could be a baby.
Don't you do stuff with falcons too?
Yeah, on my birthday every year, I do like a falcon experience because I love them.
Okay.
Um, okay, here, if you guys can see.
Oh, that's a pretty big bird
It is. Oh, there it goes. I
waiting for
love,
you.
I know. It's trying to eat somebody somewhere, but I love birds of prey. So my backyard has like a little water feature to attract little birds and creatures so that the big birds have something to eat.
Okay. I like that. A little morbid, but all
It is, it is a little bit, but I think it's working.
right.
Um, oh my God, and I completely forgot what you would ask me
No,
because
it's okay.
that's so
I love
psyched
that.
about
Your
that.
curiosity is
Oh
shining
yes.
through. But
Yeah,
what if you
so
don't know the answer? Does that excite you, and has that served you well?
oh, I love it. I feel like one thing that's important to me is to feel like I as a person have value even if I like even if tomorrow I woke up and I was like I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to like live on the earth and like create nothing, do nothing, just like not like produce anything. And I think people have value that is separate from like whatever they achieve or what they do. And for me, that's very it's really important because it means that if I try something and it doesn't work or like I learn something and I mess it up or like it's much easier for me to say, okay, I did something and it didn't work out, but that doesn't have anything to do with my value as a person. Like I can fail at things and it doesn't mean that I'm bad. And I think a lot of people, partly it's like how our school system is designed that like you fail at a class and like you're a bad student and you should feel bad. And like I hate that because I think when you mess something up, that's like how you learn
Mhm.
and how you can reflect and grow. But like we teach people to not to like be very defensive about that. And so for me, getting to learn something that I don't know is like really exciting. And I also view it as like so before this, I was at the gym, like I like to say I go to the gym and I pick things up and I put them down. And so it's like essentially all that I'm doing. But I need to learn stuff to like keep my brain going. And it's like a muscle, just like working out at the gym. So I always want to find stuff that I don't know and that I don't understand and try and figure out. Like actually what I'm working on right now, I want to make a video about why. So in Tucson, the earliest sunrise already happened. Like it was like a week ago. The solstice is in 2 days, and then the latest sunset is like 10 days from now. And I want to be able to explain like why the earliest sunrise and the latest sunset are not on the solstice. And like and I've been reading about it, but and it has something to do with like the ellipticity of the Earth's orbit, but I can't actually explain why yet. I like don't get why. And so the current thing that my brain is like chewing over is I have to figure out why that is so that I can explain it to somebody. But like right now I actually can't explain it, so I don't know it. But for me it's like super fun.
I love
Allison.
So my question is, I work with little kids. I've been teaching them that summer solstice is the longest day of the year. Is it not, in fact, the longest day of the year if it already happened with an earlier sunrise?
So what's wacky is it is the longest day of the year. But like because the earliest sunrise date happens and then sunrise starts moving like forward, but the sunset is still getting later faster than sunrise is getting later. So like the window is still getting bigger up until the solstice.
Okay.
But like my before I moved here, I didn't pay as much attention to when the sun was rising, I guess because it didn't matter as much. You didn't have to hide from it. And it was only here that I noticed that the sunrise time is different than the solstice. And only like 3 days ago was I like, I need to understand why.
Thank you.
I love that. I love that natural curiosity. We had another question sent in really quick to throw it out at you. Do you have a favorite telescope image or mosaic with any of our space telescopes?
Oh, yes, this is such a good one. So my all-time favorite space image is like the Hubble Ultra Deep Field.
Ooh.
Or really any deep field. So NASA will actually, amazingly, the first time they did this, the a bunch of people were like, "This is a waste of time. You shouldn't do it." But basically, they took Hubble and just pointed it at part of the sky for I think 11 days was the initial deep field image, and they looked in a part close to I think the Big Dipper. But basically looking away from our galaxy and away from other areas where we know there's lots of galaxies. So they were deliberately trying to find an empty part of space to just like look and see. And of course, this is I think I actually write about this in the book because I have a picture of the Hubble Ultra Deep Field because I love it so much.
Black and white.
Um, and like the in fact what is there is like uncountable numbers of galaxies. And so I love this because it just shows how rich the universe is, that you can pick a very teeny tiny, like this part of the sky is so tiny, teeny tiny region, stare for a while, and you can just like see thousands and thousands and thousands of galaxies. And the area of that image is like a dime at like 100 feet or something. Like it's like such a tiny, small part of the sky. And so I like to show that to people because every point in that, except for like a few stars, every single thing is a galaxy. And we think of our galaxy as being this like massive object, but it's like it's so tiny and insignificant compared to just how much there is. And I think that one of the nice things about studying space is like every day I get a reality check of just like how insignificant we are and how useless we are. But that makes me like I tell people that I'm a nihilist, but I like maybe I'm not exactly, because I think that like, oh, that like none of this matters, nothing matters, but the like but we're here, so we should take advantage of it.
Mhm. I totally get that. Or that maybe we give our own meaning.
Yes,
We are
yeah, like
just like leftover stardust put together, but we are thinking about it. So at least I guess we better give it meaning, even
yes,
if this
like
goes away.
the other people here right now, like you guys give this meaning, and like that's what actually matters is just like each other.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's ooh, tingly. I like that. Wow, we're getting philosophical here. I love that. Um, and then one more quick question, and then if anyone has questions too, as we're going around, and by the way, fun fact: did you guys know Dr. Erika Hamden had a statue made of her? Is that true? Is that still up, Doc?
So the statue is actually sitting in my parents' house in New Jersey. They like decommissioned the statues and asked what we wanted to do with them, and it's a bit it's full, it's like life size. So I was like, I don't think I want it here in my little house in Tucson. And then my mom was like, oh, send it to the house. So that's what I did, and it's in their hallway. Like when you enter the front door, there's like, and they put like party hats on it and like decorate it for different holidays. I'll be like wearing like Christmas stuff.
Pretty cool though. To like, fun fact: I don't know if many people have had a statue made of them
It's
because
very silly.
I love it. I love it. Real quick, the question says, I can't put my head around a quantum telescope or an array of them, but will these be like the next generation telescope, perhaps?
So I think for telescopes, rather than quantum, like the next generation telescopes are going to be really big, and or they'll maybe it's actually a better way to describe it as like constellations of telescopes. So you can have many telescopes that if you know exactly how far apart they are, you can do a really tricky type of astronomy called interferometry and take very high resolution images. It's the technique that we use to take an image of the black hole at the center of our galaxy and at the center of another galaxy. Like those were the highest resolution images ever taken. So I actually think that the future of telescopes is like spanning many scales, like many tiny telescopes, that because it's easier to put stuff into space. And also telescopes getting bigger and bigger. Like at the University of Arizona, we're part of a group that's building what's called the Giant Magellan Telescope. That's a 30-meter primary mirror. So the current biggest telescopes on Earth are on the order of like 10 meters. And so this is going to be 3 times diameter and 9 times the area. That's probably not the right number, 4.5, something like that. But the we'll probably keep building bigger and bigger telescopes until we kind of hit a physical limit. And then at that point, you have to have many little telescopes that can work together to create um, just different types of images.
Hmm. What
And
what
actually, there's some really wacky ideas like putting telescopes on the moon. That's maybe not that wacky actually, but there's also, if you have a telescope that's far enough away from the Earth, you can use the gravitational mass of the Earth as the telescope and have like a detector. Like light gets bent around the Earth, and so then you're using like the entire Earth as your telescope. So there's stuff that now feels kind of wacky, but in the future maybe will be very achievable.
It's so cool. Like all the problem solving must take a lot of energy and a lot of creativity. So with that being said, what is it you do to continue to like fuel yourself, creatively and like I guess maybe even emotionally because I imagine you run into tough questions all the time that you don't immediately have the answer to. So like where do you find your creativity, inspiration and energy to continue to push forward?
Well, so I read a lot. I like read a lot of fiction and nonfiction, and I actually feel like at least for like I know that every problem is solvable because in my experience in the lab and like working on Fireball and other stuff, like I know that if you give people enough time and like ask them helpful questions or like, that you can figure anything out. So I have like right now my group is working on a telescope that we're going to launch next year from New Zealand. And sometimes my students will come to me and they're like, oh, this thing isn't working in the alignment. Or earlier in the year, we had a lot of issues with the what we call the ground support equipment and how they interface with like the optics. And people were really worried. And I was like, you just have to like everyone needs to stop and take a break. And then we'll come back to this in a couple of days and like and do some calculations. We'll figure some stuff out. And now of course everything is working great. And so I use a lot of the history that I have to be like, we will figure out a way to make this work. You just have to like chill out, take a deep breath. And my kind of general attitude is I want to feel like every day is a good day, or like I'm not working towards a goal at the end. I'm working for today and
Mm.
that I'm enjoying the work. Um, and like actually one of my students, so I really like love the students that I work with. They're so enthusiastic and wonderful. And like one of my students, her last day is Monday, and then she's going to do a PhD at Caltech. And she originally started actually in community college in Florida, and then transferred to the U of A, and then was working in my lab as a like for class credit. And then I hired her, and then she's been working with me now for like 3 years. And I just feel like seeing someone like that who started with no technical knowledge, but just she was like such a hustler and wanted to learn so much. And now she's going to like one of the best technical colleges for her PhD and it's fully paid for. So I think about things like that. That's like, oh, me doing the work means that I can like help all these other people whose lives are different now. And that like I'm like I'm sad that she's leaving, but it's also just like it feels so great that like I actually made like a tangible difference in somebody's life.
I like that. So it's not just the one goal of the telescope, but all these little wins along the way,
Yeah,
challenges
yeah.
that you overcome. Well said. I love that. Well, I think what you do, well, not only is it a lot over my head, but I do think it's fascinating and the resilience you have. And I know you years ago spoke about that in that TED talk, and that was how I was originally introduced to you. But it just goes to show, like, forgive me for saying the cliche term grit, but I mean you're quite a gritty human. You have a lot of cool stuff going on, and it impacts the world and other people. So kudos to you for that. Um,
Thank you.
I'm watching our
I
time.
am like what one of my friends has said that so like humans when they were evolving or like early humans like we can sweat and other animals can't do that and so we can like run down like people can just like run forever and like your prey gets tired and that's how you kill them. It's like persistence hunting. And so one of my friends said that I am a persistence predator of my dreams, that I like just keep going and and eventually my dream gets tired and then I get
I love that. Hey, persistence and passion and a lot of
it.
sweat, I guess, right?
Yes, that's right. A lot of sweating.
I love it. I love it. Well, a couple of things. First of all, I know I want to be cognizant of your time in that. If anyone has any questions, start stirring up in that, we can throw them in. But I want to thank
Yeah.
you for your time. Also, anybody that came to the meetup today, if you're interested in the book Weird Universe, I'm going to send out a recap email. And any of you are here today, if you'd like, I'd be my pleasure to buy the book for you. So just send me your name and address, and I'll buy it and ship it your way in order to support Doc. Erika, are there any other ways besides the book that we can support you to help you out?
Um, I mean, you can follow me on social media if you don't already and share my videos. I like want I'm doing a series in 2025 about critical thinking, and that's been really fun for me. And I like especially like when people share those videos because it's such an important skill that like people don't have or they were never taught. And it's hard actually to like critically think. It takes a lot of energy and time and like noticing things, but that's something that I'm so happy to be doing. And so like yeah, I like don't make any money on any of this. Also, I'm done. I don't know how to monetize my stuff. I'm like too busy, but knowing that people are learning about critical thinking is what makes me happy.
Heck yeah. And in all honesty, from an educator's point of view, you have so many great videos that are great, like starters or ends to the classroom that strike up conversation. I know, especially for my physics students that are often juniors, seniors, like they're ready for that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
And I think if people just scroll through your reels, they'd find a lot of good ammunition for some of those great conversations for a class of students that are ready to have those. But I think that's
Yeah.
a really great thing. But yeah. What we're gonna wrap things up. Did anyone have any quick questions or that? I know I'm a mic hog, Doc, so
It's
known
true.
for that. But did anyone want to throw anything out there in that? Feel free.
I'm glad you guys
I
are here.
love that you made a science book so accessible. I definitely want to read it. And just the whole idea of my the Hubble telescope, seeing all of these different places at once. So thanks for making, because I don't, I'm a science nerd too, but I don't have a lot of experience in astrophysics at all. So I'm excited to look into that and see what that's like.
Yeah, I hope you like it. I think that it's a like all humans like space. Like when I've talked to a lot of people and I've never met a single person that's like, oh, space, that's the worst. Like people are always like, oh, it's so cool. And so I think that it's something I try to write it so that someone who's just like, oh, space is cool, like could pick it up and feel like they get something out of it. And I never want even in my videos, I like never want people to feel like they can't get it or um like any type of kind of shame about like their ability. And so I tried to be really careful with like the words and the language and make it clear and fun.
Mm. Doc, your humility always makes me feel so grateful. You really are just transparent and it's wonderful. And not to get too corny, but when I read that book, I am overwhelmed with a sense of gratitude that when you look at this universe and that, as you said, I mean, we are so insignificant compared to the size, and yet here we are existing and talking. I feel extremely lucky to be
Yeah.
alive and doing what we do, even if it's just like, whoops, here's some furnace dust that we've got put
Yeah.
together, right? So it really is an overwhelming like sense of awe, like grateful. And with that being said, I just want to express from all of us our gratitude for your time today. I know you're a busy human and you got a lot going on. So just on
Yeah.
behalf of all of us, thank you so much. And I'm gonna officially stop our recording.